Welcome back. Well, if you haven't heard, President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to address the nation tonight amid the rising number of confirmed COVID-19 cases and resultant deaths. Some sections of society are calling for schools to close. Educational psychologist Professor Ramodungoane Tabane joins us to tell us more. Dr. Ramodungoane, thank you for joining us. You're live on eNCA. Now, a lot of people have not been in support of schools reopening. So, we know that it's going in phases, but some schools actually even deciding that they won't adhere to what the government is saying, and they've decided to just shut down schools.
Thank you for having me. Yes, unfortunately, we are living in times of uncertainties and heightened anxiety. So with all these uncertainties, people tend to pull into different directions. This is where now the leadership is needed, and to give clear direction as in where as a country we should be going.
Now, with schools reopening and people saying that they would rather not send their children to school, if you compare, for instance, it's a very difficult decision that government has had to make, because there are some pupils in rural areas who unfortunately don't have access to, for instance, luxury things like the internet and even WhatsApp, something that we take so simply here in Gauteng. But what do you say to those kids who need that physical contact with their teachers, while those here in Gauteng have that access to the internet to be able to hand in their assignments online, etc.?
You see, this is where the pain of disparity and the pain of the past injustice unfortunately now breeds its head, and this is what we have to deal with. As you say, WhatsApp, it's taken for granted in Gauteng, but in other parts it can be a luxury. And be that as it may, we need to pull together as a country to go forward, to get all our children to learn today as the academic year is continuing. Now, we're having now here to plead with the teachers, to plead with the parents, to say, let's pull together our resources to ensure that learners both in rural and in urban areas get to save their academic year, if that's the direction that we need to go.
Now, what would be, the downfall if government had to, support what some of the unions for teachers and some parents are saying, those who say, let's just cancel the 2020 academic year and resume again in 2021? What would be the repercussions if we did that?
Well, cancelling the academic year, it shouldn't be much of a major disaster as such, because it can be recovered the following year. That is the truth, and that's where the unions are standing on. The negative repercussions is when all this unfolds in an uneven way. For instance, if we're having private schools continuing, or schools in urban areas continue with the academic year, and in rural areas the school is not continuing, there's a disparity already there. So the disadvantage continues to be disadvantaged, and the advantage will continue to be advantaged. However, if the direction is everybody in the same instance, in the same situation, this is what's going to happen. The academic year is going to stop. This is what will take forward, and going forward for the following year, that can be resolved and that can be salvaged.
Now, the psychological impact, Professor Tabane, let's talk a little bit about that. Children are not really being spoken to. You have unions that are representing the teachers and principals, for instance. You have government squabbling with these unions over the children. What would be the psychological impact on them? I mean, I know that I wouldn't be happy as an 18-year-old to find out that my plans to be first year to become a journalist, for instance, in 2021 have to sit back. What's the psychological impact on children?
And I like the way that you put it in terms of categorizing it in ages as well, because the impacts will definitely differ. The lower the grade, the lesser the impact, but the higher the grade, the higher the chance of the negative impact. This is seen by the trying and attempt of the government to say grade 6, grade 7 and grade 12, so that they can go forward and they move forward. And now, if indeed the whole year will be cancelled, it will definitely have impact on the plans that another person might have had when he was to go to grade 2 first year university. So the matters of anxiety, the matters of of depression, the matters of uncertainty that can lie and get into one's space, into one's situation. The influence and the matter of bursaries. What's going to happen now with this individual who now has to reapply? Or is it a matter of everything is frozen? The following year, everything will take off from where it started, and it's very impossible. So people are anxious. People are going to be depressed. That is for sure. So it's going to be a bit of chaos.
Now, if you had to advise the president in the next few hours before he addresses us later on tonight, what would you say to him particularly about education and, the decisions that have been made around that and all the uncertainty and, as you put it, anxiety from teachers, principals, and children and their parents?
Life first. That's one thing I can say to the president, life first. And let's try to see that if we are trying to solve the situation, how it will benefit the entire country and not certain sectors of the population.
Well, thank you very much. That is Professor Tabane, an education psychologist, telling us a little bit of those important points when the president addresses us tonight, if he touches on education.